I, 34 female, have no contact with my stepmother, Mary. Long story not worth explaining. It's been 6 years since I cut her off from my and my family's lives. As such, she hasn't seen my son, preteen male, since he was a toddler, and she's never met my daughter, a kindergartner. Throughout the years, she's attempted to contact me and my kids several times. My father used to help her sometimes. He told me how awful she felt, how much she wanted to meet my daughter, and that the kids needed their grandma. I've never considered her a grandparent, as both my mother and mother-in-law are active in their lives. Several fights later, my father apologized and stopped assisting her. But Mary still tried to get in touch with me now and then. I always say I have no interest in seeing her or allowing her to be a part of my children's lives. My son's birthday was in September. A large box was delivered to our building on the day of neither of my kids was home. I opened it to find more than later found out that she bought the toys on a recent trip to the US. I couldn't think of that as anything besides a manipulation tactic. My children are barely aware that she exists. Why would she send them both a box full of toys on my son's birthday? I also think she planned the delivery for a time she thought the kids would be home so that they'd see the toys immediately. Either way, my husband and I decided not to keep any of the toys. We donated them all throughout October. The kids never saw any of them. Last week, my father called me. He said Mary had just told him about the toys and wanted to know whether the kids liked them. I told him the truth and we argued. My father called me cruel and ungrateful for what I did. He said he understood Mary and I don't get along, but she still cared enough to spend $100 on a loving gesture for my children, and the least I could have done was to let them know about it. I honestly couldn't imagine keeping those toys, but I'd be lying if I said the amount of money spent on them didn't make me feel guilty. Am I the idiot? Edit, she bought the gifts in a different country. Getting any money back would have been nearly impossible. The long story is essentially my entire childhood. Having had her in my life as a child, I don't think Mary should be around any children. Period. She was horrible to me when I was young because I refused to pretend she was my mother. I've been in therapy for years and it's still hard to talk about how she treated me. I feel like allowing her to be a part of my adult life was already giving her a second chance. I cut her off for good when she threw a tantrum because I haven't taught my son to call her grandma. Not the idiot. I'm very sorry that Mary happened to you and that so many idiots invalidate your experience. You don't owe her crap. You really need to cut off the man who allowed this in your life, your father. Mary spent $100 not on a loving gesture, but on a manipulation tactic, and it failed. She's been told where she stands, and yet she's still flailing around like she's lost. She isn't. She's just trying to be the victim. Mary's the manipulative idiot who spent all that money on children she's not allowed contact with. Not your problem. Mary needs to move along and find some other outlet for her frustration. I used to be low contact with my father. When I cut contact with Mary, she spent a few months trying to use him as a messenger. He since agreed to stop, and our relationship has been improving. But I intend to proceed cautiously if we can't sort this out. She's also had her mother call me to tell me off 3 times and her brother once. I blocked them both. He since agreed to stop. Oh, honey, if you think for an instant he didn't know that box was coming and went along with the manipulation, I'm sorry to break it to you. He knew. Man siding with his wife, but doesn't want to lose access to you or your kids. It's called playing both sides. Stop feeling guilty. I, 28 female, just had my wedding last weekend. My husband, 30, and I have been vegan for 3 years, and we decided to have an all-vegan reception dinner. We spent months working with an amazing chef to create a gourmet 5-course meal that just happened to be vegan. Think mushroom Wellington, truffle risotto, roasted vegetable tarts, etc. We spent nearly $15,000 on the food alone. We deliberately didn't mention the food was vegan on the invitations because we wanted people to enjoy it without prejudice. Every dish was designed to be delicious and satisfying, regardless of dietary preference. The ceremony was beautiful, but I noticed my brother Tom, 32, wasn't at his table during the reception. 20 minutes later, I watched in horror as he and my cousins walked in carrying 20 large pizzas. They started distributing them to guests, announcing real food for anyone who wants it. I was mortified. The caterers looked so embarrassed and several guests hadn't even tried our carefully planned menu yet. When I confronted Tom, he said, My aunt had texted him that all the food is just vegetables, and they couldn't let people go hungry at a wedding. The pizza completely upstaged our expensive gourmet meal. People were taking photos and treating it like a joke. My mother-in-law posted on Facebook that her son's wedding was saved by pizza because the bride tried to force everyone to eat rabbit food. I ended up crying in the bathroom, and my husband asked Tom and the cousins to leave. This caused the scene, and now half the family calls us stuck up and says we ruined our wedding by pushing our beliefs on everyone. They're saying we should have warned people about the vegan menu. Am I the idiot for not announcing the vegan menu and then getting angry about the pizza? I'm sorry your day was ruined, but your planning was so self-involved and short-sighted that it was almost bound to happen. Every dish was not designed to be delicious and satisfying regardless of dietary preference. The food was designed to be delicious, and attendees did not share that dietary preference. Again, I'm sorry your day was ruined, but yes, you are the idiot for not at least warning people that the dinner menu was going to be so limited. $15,000 on food at a wedding? For real, you could have just ordered 50 of the best gourmet pizzas anyone's ever had in their life and used the Honda Civic in great condition, LMAO. Be honest, you didn't tell anyone about the menu because you knew they wouldn't like it, and they wouldn't come if you did. This doesn't make you an idiot, but people could have eaten beforehand if they knew the menus weren't to their liking. Carnivore here. I absolutely do not need to be warned that a meal I'm invited to doesn't contain meat. I'll try whatever food is on offer. Sometimes people give me food I don't care for. That's fine. I appreciate the hospitality. I'll live through a meal I wouldn't have chosen. Not the idiot. You get free food. It's one night and no one will starve. Yesterday, my 20 female boyfriend, 19, bought us both ice cream. When we got it, the server asked if I wanted a special type of cone, and I said yes, picking out what looked to me like bits of cookies, Dr. Chocolate on the cone. My boyfriend also got this, and it cost an extra $6 on top of the $18 for the ice cream. He paid for it as his treat, even though I think he didn't expect it to be so expensive. When I started to eat, I realized it was bits of peanuts. I'm not allergic, but I don't really like nuts that much, especially on sweet ice cream when the flavors don't match up. I started to try to pick off the nuts, but most of them were stuck on pretty hard. I eventually just ripped off the entire chocolate part of the cone and threw it in the bin. I didn't notice my boyfriend at first, but about 30 seconds later, he stormed off and I could see he was crying, something I haven't seen him do ever before. I chased after him and asked him what was wrong, and he yelled at me for being ungrateful and for making him literally throw away his money for no reason. This made me very upset as well, and I started crying too. He calmed down and comforted me after this, but never properly apologized. For some additional context, earlier that day, we went to my favorite fast food place, and I picked out something that I hadn't tried before, rather than my regular. He paid for it, but I didn't eat it because I didn't really like it, so I let him have it. I felt hungry after that, and after I told him, he took me to get ice cream. Since I got home that day, he hasn't messaged me back at all, and I'm starting to get worried. Am I the idiot? Girl, you made him cry, and now you're upset about that and expect him to apologize? What kind of twisted logic is that? How is he now the one responsible for apologizing? You're the idiot for not communicating and then expecting an apology. Stop ordering stuff you don't know if you like. So wasteful. At 19, he's probably not rolling in money for you to be just throwing it away like this. If you want to try new stuff that you might waste, buy it yourself. You're just being rude. I feel terrible for him. As I noted above, she's a horrid combination of spoiled, demanding, wasteful, and completely unappreciative. Any one of which would make someone unpleasant to be around and completely unaware of how horrid her behavior was. No one deserves to be treated like she treats him, not just as a walking wallet, which would be bad enough, but as someone whose little money she is willing to burn because it doesn't affect her. My girlfriend Megan and I live together. She fought with her parents and asked if we could move in together, so we did. Not too long ago, I had stayed my little sister in. I can't disclose much except that I was her only option. When we talked about me having stayed my sister in, Megan didn't like the idea. She told me that I was too young to have such responsibility, what would happen when we got married and had our own kids. Our place was too small, etc., but didn't outright say she had an issue with it. I obviously couldn't turn my back on my sister, so I went ahead despite her reservations. Although my sister has always been friendly to Megan from the moment she met her, Megan is always just indifferent. And it sucks because my sister really admires her and enjoys talking to her. I just thought maybe they didn't connect because of my sister's age. A month ago, I bought my sister a Switch. She's always wanted one, and all her friends have it. She deserved it as she does well at school, helps with chores, and is generally a well-behaved kid. She loved it, and she's been taking good care of it. Megan wasn't happy when I bought it. She actually sulked. Megan would borrow the Switch incessantly, and my sister wouldn't say no, maybe because she was afraid to. But Megan would use it so much that it felt like it belonged to her. My sister never said anything. She just patiently waited for her to return it. Sometimes Megan would use it even when my sister was at school, saying that she gets bored when I'm at work. All this made me uncomfortable, so I asked her to please tone down on the Switch as it was unfair to my sister. It was her gift. Megan agreed. Although it was clear that she was upset, she gave us the silent treatment for the rest of the night. Last week, when I returned from picking up my sister from school after work, we found her Switch broken, and that's putting it lightly. It looked like it was deliberately smashed. My sister was distraught. When I asked Megan what had happened, she told us that she'd accidentally dropped it and it had broken. It was obvious that she was lying, and when I pointed that out, and all the other times when seemed to have an issue with a tween for no reason, she got annoyed and told me that everything was fine until my sister moved in. I called her childish and asked her to please pack her bags and go back to her parents' house because I needed space and time to think. This only made her more annoyed, but eventually she left. Her best friend texted me last night to tell me that I was an idiot for kicking Megan out because I know how rocky her relationship with her parents is. Does this make me an idiot? Not the idiot. She isn't your wife. She doesn't get a say in your decision to take your sister in, and she's quite frankly a despicable person for bullying and intentionally hurting a twin who looks up to her. On top of that, she sounds like a terrible partner too. You work and let her live rent-free, and she does nothing all day but play on the Switch and bully your sister. And look at that. The first time you stand up to her BS, and she already ran to her friend vilifying you. Dump her like radioactive waste, and tell her friend to eat glass. If she cares so much, she can take on the insufferable burden that is your ex. You and your sister are better off without her. If she doesn't want to live with her parents, I'm sure her friend will be more than happy to take her toxic self in. Change the locks and save any message she sends begging or demanding to come back so she can't lie that you were abusive. If she's vindictive enough, she might try to remove your sister from your care. Update: I just wanted to write an update on what happened after I posted. When I kicked Megan out, I knew there was no way our relationship could continue. I knew I needed to officially end the relationship and not leave things hanging. I only told her I needed time to think because I wanted her to leave without a fuss. She's already caused enough trouble. I haven't spoken to her since what happened because I was ignoring her text. Some of her texts said that she missed me and wanted to come back home. I decided to text her to arrange a meeting. She told me to go over to her friend's place because she'd only stayed a few days at her parents' place. When I got to her friend's place, I told Megan that our relationship wasn't working out for me, and it was best that we broke up. I said I didn't see myself getting over the fact that she intentionally destroyed something that meant a lot to my sister over her irrational jealousy. Not to mention that she never really opened up to my sister, which should have been enough for me to end the relationship then. My sister deserves to be around someone willing to form a relationship with her. I had the rest of her stuff and proceeded to give it to her. She started crying and pleading, then accused me of choosing my sister over her. I clearly never really loved her. She knew that this would happen after my sister moved in. I just told her this is exactly why I'm breaking up with you. I also told her that she needed to reimburse me the $300 for the Switch she accidentally dropped because my little sister is heartbroken over it and has been sad about it ever since. She rolled her eyes and told me that she already said it was an accident and that it wasn't her problem anyway, since I didn't want to be with her anymore. I didn't feel like arguing with her, so I told her never to contact me again and left. When I got home, I blocked her everywhere. I'm relieved that she's out of our lives, but I'm very disappointed that it took something so drastic for me to see that Megan was not a good person. So I'm 24, female, and my boyfriend is gone for a few weeks visiting family on the other side of the world. Coincidentally, the death of one of my coworkers meant I had to work a lot more during those weeks. and I was honestly miserable and pent up the whole time. The one thing kept me going was the thought of having a good time when he got home. My boyfriend's sister texted me and asked if she could come over when he got home. I said we would both be really tired and eager to be alone, and said it'd be best to wait. Then I put my phone on silent, which meant I didn't see her next text that said, she knew her brother, he'll find the energy to say hi. When he got home, I changed into a bunny suit when he was sufficiently unpacked. Then his sister knocked on the door and yelled hello. I was pretty angry, so I didn't try to hide my angry expression and answered the door in the outfit. I was pretty cold with her, and she got passive-aggressive before reluctantly leaving. She said it was petty and dramatic over the phone, and I just hung up, prompting some angry texts. Am I the idiot for answering the door in a spicy costume? Not the idiot. You don't go over to anyone's house when you clearly weren't invited. Even vampires abide by this rule. If she continues to complain about you coming to the door in your spicy costume, just tell her if she don't barged over just a few minutes later, then you would have been happy to answer the door without the costume. She clearly does not know her brother that well. Eager to be alone should have been sufficiently direct. She tried to override you or no in your home. You were surprised, not set, that you ended up in an awkward position. You returned that awkward to the sender, who couldn't be bothered to respect your no, and by extension, your relationship with your boyfriend. If she thinks that was dramatic and unnecessary, maybe she should accept that no means no next time. Hopefully your boyfriend is on your side here.